The era of the chatbot is effectively over. For the past 3 years, the industry's primary focus was on generative fluency, creating models that could mirror human conversation with increasing accuracy. However, as of early 2026, the global AI race has fundamentally shifted its objective. The new benchmark is no longer how well a model can talk, but how effectively it can act. We are entering the age of operational agency. This represents a transition from AI as a creative consultant to AI as a digital operator. The recent quiet rollout of Moonshot's Kimi K2.5 and Alibaba's Qwen3 Max thinking serves as the definitive signal of this pivot. These systems are no longer confined to a text box. They are designed to inhabit the digital workspace, manipulating tools, navigating complex visual interfaces, and managing multi-step workflows with minimal human oversight. Moonshot AI has moved beyond the long context niche that initially defined the Kimi brand. Kimi K2.5 introduces two critical technical advancements: Native Multimodality and Agent Swarm technology. Native Multimodality. Unlike earlier models that utilized vision as a secondary interpretive layer, K2.5 was trained on approximately 15 trillion mixed tokens, where visual and textual data were processed concurrently. This allows the model to understand the spatial logic of a software interface. It does not just see a screenshot. It understands the hierarchical structure of a UI, making it capable of executing tasks within complex enterprise software that would typically confuse a standard LLM. The Agent Swarm. The most significant development is Kimi's orchestration layer. K2.5 can independently deploy up to 100 specialized subagents to address a single objective. In a traditional workflow, a user provides a prompt, and the AI provides a response. In a K2.5 workflow, the master agent decomposes the prompt into dozens of subtasks: research, data extraction, code generation, and verification, and assigns them to subagents that work in parallel. This parallel execution dramatically reduces the time required for high-complexity projects, moving AI closer to the operational output of an entire human department. 3. Alibaba Qwen3 Max thinking, the slow AI revolution. While Moonshot focuses on parallel agency, Alibaba's Qwen3 Max thinking addresses the reasoning bottleneck. This model utilizes a paradigm known as test time scaling. In simple terms, the model is designed to think longer before it speaks. System 2. Thinking. Human cognition is often divided into System 1, fast, intuitive, and System 2, slow, analytical. Previous AI models operated primarily in System 1, generating the most statistically likely next word. Qwen3 Max thinking is optimized for System 2. When faced with a complex scientific or mathematical problem, the model does not immediately provide an answer. Instead, it enters a reasoning loop, testing various hypotheses and self-correcting its logic before delivering a final, verified conclusion. Agent-style workflows. Qwen3 is not just an island of logic. It is optimized for long-context reasoning, supporting up to 1 million tokens, and is designed to independently call upon external tools. Whether it is a Python interpreter for data analysis or a specialized search engine for technical documentation, the model determines which tool is necessary to solve the problem at hand, executing the call without requiring the user to bridge the gap. IVE. The Western counteroffensive, Claude 4.5 and Claude Code. The response from Silicon Valley has been equally focused on operational power. Anthropic's release of Claude 4.5 and the introduction of Claude Code represent a significant shift toward terminal-first reasoning. Operating in the file system. While earlier versions of Claude were used to generate snippets of code for a user to copy and paste, Claude Code operates directly within the developer's environment. It has the authority to read files, run tests, identify bugs, and deploy fixes autonomously. This move from the browser to the file system is a critical step in removing the human-in-the-loop requirement for routine engineering tasks. Reliability and structured reasoning. The focus for the 4.5 architecture was not on increasing creativity, but on reliability. For AI to be an operational agent, its error rate must be near zero in structured environments. Anthropic has prioritized the model's ability to follow complex, multi-layered instructions without hallucinating or drifting from the original objective. Google has utilized its vast ecosystem to push the boundaries of multi-agent orchestration. Gemini 3, integrated into the Antigravity platform, leverages a massive 1 million token context window to serve as a persistent project manager for enterprise-scale operations. Antigravity Orchestration. This platform allows Gemini to manage entire code repositories and complex office productivity suites simultaneously. It acts as a bridge between various Google Workspace tools, independently pulling data from Sheets, drafting reports and docs, and coordinating project timelines and calendar operational integration. Google's strategy is built on the premise that for AI to be truly agentic, it must have deep native access to the data and tools where work actually happens. By embedding Gemini 3 into the core infrastructure of the modern workplace, Google is positioning its AI not as a tool used by employees, but as the infrastructure that manages the employees' workflows. The socioeconomic implications, from SaaS to LaaS. The transition from generative AI to agentic AI marks the beginning of a shift from software as a service, SaaS, to labor as a service, LaaS. The orchestration value. Historically, software was a passive tool that required a human operator. In the age of agent swarms and thinking models, the software becomes the operator. The value is no longer in the license to use the software, but in the output the software can generate independently. The strategic divergence. We are seeing two distinct philosophies in AI development. The Chinese approach, exemplified by Moonshot and Alibaba, emphasizes massive parallelization and scientific reasoning. The Western approach, led by Anthropic and Google, focuses on deep integration and engineering reliability. Both, however, share a common destination: the creation of systems that can function with high degrees of autonomy in the digital economy. The rapid evolution of Kimi K2.5, Qwen3 Max, and Claude 4.5 confirms a thesis that has been building within the industry for years. The experimental phase of artificial intelligence is concluding. For the better part of the last decade, we have lived in a world of proof of concepts. We were collectively mesmerized by the ability of a machine to generate a coherent paragraph, draft a poem, or simulate a conversation. We spent years asking, can these models reason? We treated them as novelties. Digital sandboxes where the stakes were low and the primary output was text on a screen. That era of curiosity is now behind us. We are no longer in the business of testing whether these models can think. We are in the process of deploying them to work. The distinction is subtle but profound. In an experimental phase, a hallucination or a logic error is a technical curiosity to be documented. In an operational phase, an error is a systemic failure. The release of models like Kimi K2.5 with its agent swarm architecture signifies that the developers are now confident enough in the reliability of their systems to move them out of the chat box and into the infrastructure of global commerce. As these systems gain the native ability to navigate complex user interfaces, UIs, utilize professional toolkits, and coordinate dozens of sub-agents in parallel, the traditional barrier between human intent and digital execution is beginning to dissolve. Historically, the process of getting a machine to do work required a high degree of translation. A human had to understand the task, know the software's specific requirements, and manually navigate through menus and commands to achieve a result. Even early LLMs required this translation layer. The human still had to copy-paste the code, click the buttons, and verify the output. We are now entering a paradigm of frictionless execution. When a system like Claude 4.5 can inhabit a file system, or when Kimi K2.5 can interpret the spatial layout of a proprietary enterprise tool, the middleman of the human software interface is bypassed. The AI no longer needs you to explain what a button does. It recognizes the button, understands its function within the workflow, and interacts with it directly. This isn't just a faster way to work, it is a total reconfiguration of how work is produced. The machine is moving from being a tool used by a human to being an operator that manages the tools itself. In this new landscape, the hierarchy of professional skills is being radically inverted. For the past 2 years, prompt engineering was heralded as the defining skill of the AI age. However, as models become more agentic and self-correcting, the value of a perfectly phrased prompt is diminishing. When a model can think for 5 minutes before responding, testing its own assumptions and refining its own logic, the specific wording of the initial request becomes less critical. Instead, the most valuable skill in the coming decade will be orchestration management. The professionals and organizations that thrive in this era will not be those who can talk to AI most effectively, but those who can manage swarms of digital agents. Orchestration management requires a different cognitive framework. It is less about being a writer and more about being a conductor or a high-level project manager. It involves defining high-level strategic goals, setting the operational parameters for an agentic workforce, and overseeing the integration of multiple autonomous outputs into a single cohesive objective. We must understand that the AI race has shifted its finish line. The competition is no longer about who can build the smartest chatbot or the most creative storyteller. The competition is now about who can build the most capable operator. We are seeing the birth of labor as a service, where the cognitive and operational load of running a business, from software engineering to market analysis and logistics coordination, is handled by a synchronized layer of AI agents. The models we are seeing today from Moonshot, Alibaba, and Anthropic are the first generation of this new workforce. They represent a world where the power of an organization is no longer limited by the number of human hours it can command, but by the complexity of the agentic swarms it can effectively orchestrate. As the operational power of these systems continues to scale, the focus will move entirely away from the chat and toward the result. The era of talking to machines is ending. The era of machines working for us at scale and with autonomy has officially begun.